The Great Pyramid, mostly that's the one that's been studied. We actually haven't done a whole lot of studying on the other pyramids. It's something that's severely lacking. In fact, we've not even cleared off the bases of some of the other pyramids up at Giza. It's crazy.
So you can understand why people start to question the historical narrative.
The reality of them is probably stranger and more interesting than anything people can think up in terms of fiction.
For centuries, we've believed that the ancient Egyptians were the masterminds behind this architectural marvel. But what if they weren't? What if instead, they simply moved into these colossal structures? Join us as we explore groundbreaking theories, unravel new discoveries, and challenge everything we thought we knew about one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world.
I'm willing to accept that the Great Pyramid was largely completed by the ancient Egyptians.
The Great Pyramid of Giza, built during the 4th dynasty of Egypt for Pharaoh Khufu around 2580 to 2560 BC, has long captured the imagination of people worldwide. The discovery of its entrance and the subsequent exploration of its interior chambers have significantly deepened our understanding of ancient Egyptian architecture and burial practices. For centuries, the entrance to this monumental structure was a mystery. Originally, the pyramid was encased in smooth Tura limestone, which concealed any openings. By the time explorers began their quest, most of this casing had been stripped away, revealing the underlying structure.
The Great Pyramid was sealed. It was a sealed monument.
The first recorded discovery of the entrance dates back to 820 AD when the Caliph al-Mamun ordered an expedition to uncover the pyramid's secrets.
The Caliph al-Mamun, who was running Egypt at the time, wanted to get inside the Great Pyramid.
His workers supposedly found the hidden entrance after hearing a stone fall within the pyramid. They located the entrance about 17 meters above the ground on the northern face, slightly to the east of the central axis. This discovery led them to a descending passageway. From the entrance, the descending passageway measures about 1.2 meters high and 3.5 wide, sloping downwards at an angle of approximately 26 degrees.
Is there not a hidden chamber as well?
In fact, there is a whole underworld at Giza. This is beginning to be recognized.
This passage extends for about 105 meters into the pyramid, eventually reaching the subterranean chamber, also known as the pit. This chamber lies beneath the pyramid, carved into the bedrock, and is unfinished, roughly hewn, and not fully smoothed out like other parts of the pyramid. Measuring approximately 27 by 14 meters and about 8.6 meters high at its highest point, the chamber's purpose remains unclear.
We actually don't know what these chambers were for. No burial of any pharaoh was ever found inside the Great Pyramid.
Some theories suggest it was an early attempt at a burial chamber or simply an unfinished part of the construction. Halfway along the descending passageway, an ascending passageway branches off upwards. Similar in dimensions to the descending passageway, it extends for about 39 meters before reaching the Grand Gallery. The entrance to the ascending passageway was originally concealed by a stone block, adding an extra level of security. The Grand Gallery is one of the pyramid's most impressive features. It is a steeply inclined corridor, measuring about 46.6 meters in length, 8.6 meters in height, and 2.1 meters in width at the base, narrowing slightly towards the top. The walls of the Grand Gallery are lined with precisely cut stones, and the ceiling consists of corbelled stone blocks, creating a vaulted appearance. The floor has a series of slots, possibly for the placement of beams or to aid in the transportation of heavy objects. Approximately halfway along the Grand Gallery, a horizontal passageway leads to the so-called Queen's Chamber. This chamber is smaller than the King's Chamber, measuring about 5 3/4 meters by 5 1/4 meters, with a height of 6 1/4 meters. The walls are smooth and the ceiling is pointed, forming a gabled roof. The exact purpose of the Queen's Chamber is still debated. It might have been intended as a secondary burial chamber or a symbolic chamber for the pharaoh's spirit. Continuing up the Grand Gallery, a horizontal passage leads to the King's Chamber, the most important room in the pyramid. The King's Chamber is rectangular, measuring about 1.5 by 5.2 meters, and has a flat roof composed of massive granite beams. The chamber's walls are also lined with granite, and the floor consists of large granite blocks. Inside the King's Chamber is a large granite sarcophagus, believed to have held Khufu's body. The sarcophagus is too large to have been brought in through the existing passages, indicating it was placed during the construction of the pyramid. Above the king's chamber are 5 relieving chambers, designed to distribute the weight of the pyramid and prevent the roof of the king's chamber from collapsing. These chambers are separated by large horizontal slabs of granite, each layer relieving some of the weight above. In recent times, advanced technologies like ground-penetrating radar and Moon tomography have been employed to explore the pyramid further. These methods have led to the discovery of previously unknown voids and chambers, such as the Scan Pyramid's Big Void, a large empty space above the Grand Gallery discovered in 2017. The purpose of this void remains a mystery and continues to be a topic of ongoing research and speculation. The area surrounding the Great Pyramid of Giza, also known as Khufu's Pyramid, has been a treasure trove of archaeological discoveries.
I think there's a lot more remains to be discovered under the Giza Plateau.
Yeah.
These finds offer remarkable insights into ancient Egyptian civilization, their burial practices, religious beliefs, and daily life. One of the most intriguing discoveries is the solar boat pits, unearthed in 1954 by Egyptian archaeologist Kamal El-Malakh. These pits contain 2 intact boats buried near the Great Pyramid, positioned on the southern side. Known as solar barks, these boats were believed to serve a dual purpose. They were intended for Khufu's journey with the sun god Ra across the sky during the day and through the underworld at night. Another theory suggests they might have been used in the funerary procession of the pharaoh. The boats are made of Lebanese cedar wood, meticulously assembled without nails. The larger boat measures about 43.6 meters in length and features a sophisticated design with a cabin, oars, and rope bindings, using a technique known as mortise and tenon. The first boat was painstakingly reconstructed over 14 years by Egyptian conservator Ahmed Youssef Mustafa and is now displayed in the Khufu Boat Museum beside the Great Pyramid. The second boat remains in situ, awaiting advanced preservation techniques. In the early 1990s, Egyptian archaeologist Zahi Hawass and his team made a groundbreaking discovery southeast of the Great Pyramid, the tombs of the workers who built the pyramids. The tombs provided evidence that the builders were paid laborers who worked in 3-month rotating shifts, reflecting the societal structure and economy of the Old Kingdom. The tombs contained skeletal remains showing signs of healed injuries, indicating that workers had access to medical care. Pottery shards, tools, and remnants of food supplies such as bread and beer were also found, shedding light on their diet and daily life. The presence of beef and fish bones suggests that the workers received good nutrition. The tombs were simple, yet carefully constructed from mud brick and limestone, indicating a level of respect for the workers. Some tombs had hieroglyphic inscriptions and modest grave goods, signifying the workers' social status and the reverence afforded to them. Another significant discovery was made in 1925 by American archaeologist George Reisner when he uncovered the mastaba of Queen Hetepheres I, the mother of Khufu, in the Giza necropolis. Located to the northeast of the Great Pyramid, the tomb was initially hidden under debris. The tomb contained a large cache of funerary equipment, including a golden throne, a gilded bed with a canopy, chairs, a palanquin, and various personal items such as jewelry and cosmetic boxes. The craftsmanship of these items highlights the luxurious lifestyle of the royal family and the high level of artisanship of the period. Interestingly, Hetepheres' body was never found, leading to theories that her mummy might have been relocated or never placed in the tomb. Some suggest the burial equipment might have been prepared in anticipation of her death, but used for another purpose. The remains of Khufu's pyramid temple have been uncovered through various excavations conducted over the years, with significant contributions from archaeologists such as Mark Lehner and Zahi Hawass. The pyramid temple was a site for offerings and rituals to honor the deceased pharaoh Khufu. It played a central role in the funerary cult, where daily rituals and ceremonies ensured the pharaoh's immortality. The temple's remains include large limestone blocks, column bases, and fragments of statues and altars. The temple layout typically featured a courtyard, a hypostyle hall, and sanctuaries. The temple was connected to the pyramid by a causeway, which was used for processional purposes. Various small artifacts, including inscribed blocks, offering tables, and fragments of statues have been found. These artifacts shed light on the religious practices of the time, the artistic styles, and the materials used. Notably, fragments of a life-size statue of Khufu have been uncovered, providing insights into the pharaoh's appearance and royal iconography. The tomb of Khentkaus III, discovered by archaeologists in the early 20th century, is also referred to as the Fourth Pyramid due to its unique design. Located to the southeast of the Great Pyramid within the Giza necropolis, the tomb features a unique design that combines elements of both a pyramid and a mastaba. It includes a stepped pyramid base with a superstructure that might have been intended as a pyramid but was left unfinished. Randall Carlson's theory about advanced ancient civilizations is truly fascinating and a bit of a departure from what we usually hear in mainstream archaeology. He's suggesting that highly sophisticated societies might have existed tens of thousands of years ago, way before the traditional cradles of civilization like Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, and China came into the picture. Imagine civilizations thriving before or even during the last ice age, which wrapped up around 11,700 years ago. That idea alone pushes back the conventional timeline of human development by several thousand years. Now, when you look at the evidence Carlson brings to the table, it's primarily centered around those massive and mystifying megalithic structures scattered across the globe. Take the pyramids of Giza, for example. Their alignment with the stars of Orion's belt and the precision of their construction is just mind-blowing. Or Stonehenge with its solstitial alignment standing there on the Salisbury Plain.
Two of these shafts go all the way through the body of the pyramid and exit on the outside and actually point at particularly significant stars.
These structures suggest that the people who built them had a far more advanced understanding of astronomy than we usually give them credit for. Carlson dives into the engineering and architectural skills of these ancient builders. He talks about how they constructed these massive stone structures, some involving stones weighing several tons. Just think about the logistics of transporting and precisely placing these enormous stones over great distances. It indicates a level of engineering know-how and physical physics that seems way ahead of their time. Now moving on. Randall Carlson's theory about ancient civilizations is absolutely something different, isn't it? He really makes you think about the roots of our history in a new way. Just consider the megalithic structures scattered all over the world.
When you account for the rise of sea level and the isostatic subsidence of the sea floor, it's not at all implausible that you had a large island complex in the mid-Atlantic Ocean.
Carlson sees these as evidence of advanced prehistoric civilizations. The Great Pyramid of Giza, for example, is made up of over 2 million stone blocks, each weighing tons, and they're all placed with incredible precision. It's not just about the sheer size, but the sophistication in their construction. And it's not just in one place. These megalithic structures are everywhere, from the stone circles in Europe to the pyramids in Egypt and Mesoamerica. Carlson points out that the similarities in construction techniques and astronomical alignments across different cultures hint at a possibly shared or globally distributed source of knowledge. It's like these ancient builders were all tapping into the same advanced understanding, which is pretty mind-blowing to think about. Now, where it gets even more intriguing, is how Carlson links the disappearance of this advanced knowledge to catastrophic events. He often refers to the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, suggesting that a comet impact might have triggered drastic climatic changes at the end of the Ice Age.
You may have periods of time where you have multiple impacts occurring over a short period of time associated with the destruction and disintegration of large comets.
Imagine massive flooding, climate shifts, and entire civilizations collapsing. It's like something out of a movie, but Carlson suggests it could be what wiped out these advanced societies and their knowledge. But here's the thing. He thinks this lost knowledge didn't just vanish. According to Carlson, it lived on in myths, legends, and religious texts, which he sees not just as stories but as historical records. Take the flood myths, for example, like Noah's Ark or the Epic of Gilgamesh. Carlson sees these as allegorical references to actual historical events, like massive post-glacial flooding. He believes that remnants of knowledge from these advanced civilizations were passed down through generations, albeit in a fragmented and symbolically encoded way. Moving back to megalithic structures, Randall Carlson's work on the astronomical alignments of megalithic structures is like peeling back layers of history to reveal the deep astronomical knowledge of ancient civilizations. Take the megalithic temples of Malta, Hagar Kim, and Manajra, for instance. These structures aren't just old, they're among the oldest freestanding structures in the world, dating back to around 3600, 3200 BC. What's really remarkable about them is how they demonstrate an intricate understanding of celestial movements, particularly the solar cycle. When you look at these temples, especially during the equinoxes, it's like watching a celestial dance choreographed by ancient architects. At Manajra on the equinoxes, the sunlight filters through a specific aperture, illuminating an inner stone slab. It's this incredible precision that highlights how the builders weren't just stacking stones, they were aligning them with celestial events, marking the change of seasons with architectural precision. But it's not just about alignments. The architectural design itself is a marvel.
Some reference to such an event can be traced in many of the legends and myths surrounding these stars that have come down to us from nations far removed from each other.
The layout of the temples seems carefully planned to align with the sun's position at significant times of the year. For example, the main axis of Hagar Chim is almost perfectly oriented to where the sun rises during the solstices. It shows a level of planning and understanding of the sun's movements. And then there's the construction itself. We're talking about huge megaliths, each weighing several tons, placed with such accuracy that they align with celestial events. It wasn't just a matter of brute force. It required sophisticated knowledge of astronomy and construction techniques. Plus, they used local limestone, which is abundant in Malta. The complexity of these temples goes beyond just their size or the weight of the stones. They have multiple apses, altars, and intricate carvings, all forming part of a complex architectural design. The series of semicircular chambers connected by a central corridor, and their alignment with specific astronomical events. The pyramids of Giza, especially the Great Pyramid, the precision with which these pyramids align to the cardinal points of the compass is just mind-boggling. Think about it. The Great Pyramid, built for Pharaoh Khufu around 2580–2560 BC, is aligned almost perfectly north, south, east, and west. The northern side aligns to within a fraction of a degree of true north. Considering the era it was built in, that's an incredible feat of geometry and astronomy. The construction techniques themselves are a mystery. The ancient Egyptians might have used stars or the sun's path to find true north, which implies they had advanced surveying techniques and a deep understanding of angles and straight lines. It's impressive when you consider the tools and technology available at the time. Then there's the fascinating Orion correlation theory. This theory suggests that the layout of the three main pyramids at Giza mirrors the stars in Orion's belt. Proponents like Robert Bauval believe this alignment was intentional, reflecting a belief in the connection between the heavens and the afterlife.
They speak of these two regions of the sky, the southern sky with the stars of Orion, and there's, can we move one slide up? Here's a nice view of them. They're pristine, by the way. It's really eerie how they carve those texts by hand, and some of the details is extraordinary.
With Orion associated with Osiris, the god of rebirth and the afterlife, the pyramids in this view were not just tombs but also celestial maps and gateways for the pharaoh's soul to the afterlife. The smallest pyramid, Menkaura's pyramid, is slightly offset, mirroring the offset of the smallest star, Mintaka, in Orion's belt, which adds another layer of intrigue to this theory. The design of the pyramids also incorporates alignments with the sun and specific stars and constellations. For example, certain shafts within the Great Pyramid align with particular stars. These could have been more than architectural features. They might have held spiritual significance, possibly serving as pathways for the pharaoh's soul to the stars. Also, on specific days of the year, the sun sets between the pyramids, creating a visual spectacle likely significant in ancient Egyptian ceremonies. Now one of the most known megalithic structures.
Would it be fair to say that there's an element of a rediscovery of a lost technology from the past?
I think it would be fair to say that, yes.
Stonehenge, out there on the Salisbury Plain in Wiltshire, England. What's particularly fascinating about Stonehenge is its astronomical alignment and how it was constructed. The way it lines up with the summer solstice is probably what it's most famous for. On the longest day of the year, the sun rises right over the heel stone, which is set just outside the main stone circle. As the sun comes up, its rays shoot straight through the entrance and light up the center of the circle. Stonehenge also aligns with the winter solstice and possibly other celestial events. During the winter solstice, the sunset is framed by those massive stone trilithons, and some experts think it might even line up with lunar phenomena, which just adds another layer to how the builders understood both the sun and the moon's movements. When you think about how Stonehenge was built, it's even more mind-blowing. The final form was completed around 2500 BC, but it was built in phases over about 1,500 years. The main part of the monument is made up of these huge sarsen stones arranged in a circle, and there are smaller blue stones that were brought over from Wales. That's over 150 miles away. And then there's the layout of the stones. They're set up in this specific geometric pattern with an outer circle, an inner horseshoe arrangement, and those trilithon structures. The precision in the layout and how the stones are oriented show a really deep understanding of geometry and astronomy. It's not just a bunch of rocks placed randomly. Everything at Stonehenge is set up with purpose and meaning, which makes you wonder a little bit, doesn't it?
Nestled near the Fayum Oasis, the Hawara pyramid site may appear unremarkable today, but to ancient historians it was a place of awe and grandeur. Herodotus, often called the father of history, described it in terms that still leave modern scholars in awe. He recounted that compared to the labyrinth he encountered, even the grandest Greek temples and pyramids paled in both effort and expense. It was a structure of such enormous scale and complexity that it surpassed even the famous pyramids of Egypt. For centuries, however, many dismissed his account as fanciful or exaggerated, especially given Herodotus's reputation for embellishment. However, as time passed, more of his descriptions have been vindicated, particularly regarding his accounts of Lake Moeris near Hawara. He spoke of two pyramids rising nearly 93 meters above the surface of the water, each crowned with a seated stone statue. In the late 19th century, famed British archaeologist Flinders Petrie confirmed the presence of two seated colossi, each about 18 meters high and made of hard quartzite sandstone. This discovery was one of many that would lend credence to Herodotus's words. The site of the Hawara pyramid holds far more than just these statues. When researchers began to investigate the pyramid itself, they unearthed evidence of remarkable ancient engineering. Despite its present appearance, a crumbling pile of dark mud, the pyramid conceals a megalithic core built with astounding precision. Beneath its decayed exterior, the masonry is of exceptional quality, with blocks fitted so tightly that not even a blade could slip between them. This core represents two distinct types of ancient technologies. One, the megalithic stone core, and the other, a more fragile mud brick construction that has long since crumbled. Flinders Petrie, a pioneer in the study of ancient Egyptian architecture, was the first to delve into this mystery in detail. He noted that the stone casing of the pyramid had been removed during Roman times, leaving the interior exposed to the elements. Unlike other pyramids of the time, the entrance to this one was on the south side, not the north, and lay at ground level. It was designed with descending passages that had ramps on both sides, resembling a system for moving heavy cargo. This unique layout distinguished the Hawara pyramid from others in Egypt, leading Petrie to believe that its original purpose may have been different from typical pyramids. One of the most astonishing aspects of the structure is its system of trapdoors. Massive stone slabs weighing around 20 tons each, designed to seal off passageways. Petrie discovered 3 such trapdoors, all of which had been left open. His exploration of the pyramid led him to a central chamber carved from a single block of quartzite sandstone, forming a large tank-like structure in which a sarcophagus was placed. This colossal monolith, weighing over 110 tons, had been hewn with such precision, Petrie marveled at the technical skill required to carve and place such an enormous block of stone into a carefully excavated hollow. What truly puzzled Petrie, however, was the design of the tomb itself. There was no visible entrance, and the only way the pharaoh's body could have been placed inside would have been during the construction of the pyramid. Even more curiously, no inscriptions were found inside the chamber or on the sarcophagus, a rarity for a royal tomb. Instead, Petrie found only traces of charred bones, charcoal, and remnants of burnt diorite, suggesting that whatever had once been inside the sarcophagus had been deliberately destroyed by fire. The mystery deepened when Petrie examined a second sarcophagus in the chamber, one that appeared to have been added after the pyramid's construction. This later addition was smaller and lacked the technical precision of the original sarcophagus, raising questions about the purpose and timeline of the additions to the tomb. It was as though the pyramid had been used for multiple, distinct purposes over time, each contributing to its enigmatic history. While Petrie focused on the pyramid, he also uncovered evidence of a much larger structure nearby. The legendary Labyrinth of Egypt, which had long been mentioned in ancient texts. Herodotus had described it as a massive complex of 3,000 rooms, arranged in a maze-like formation, some above ground and others below. He was forbidden from entering the underground chambers, as they were said to house the tombs of kings and sacred crocodiles. Yet what Herodotus saw above ground left him awestruck, and later historians would echo his astonishment. Strabo, a Greek geographer who visited the site centuries later, described the labyrinth's monolithic ceilings and walls, each constructed from enormous slabs of stone. When Petrie began excavating the area in front of the Hawara pyramid, he uncovered evidence of this labyrinth beneath the remains of a later village. Beneath the village, he found layers of stone chips and fragments, the remains of what had once been an enormous stone structure. He concluded that this was indeed the foundation of the fabled labyrinth. His findings aligned with the ancient accounts. The structure was so large that, as he noted, it could have contained the temples of Karnak and Luxor within its boundaries. However, the labyrinth had long since been destroyed, its stones quarried and repurposed by later generations. All that remained were the foundations and fragments, a ghost of the massive structure that had once stood there. And yet, despite the extensive damage, Petrie's findings suggested that this labyrinth had been far more than just a building. It was a monumental work of engineering and architecture that had once awed the ancient world. As we delve deeper into the mysteries of Hawara, it becomes clear that this site still holds secrets waiting to be uncovered. The labyrinth described by Herodotus, Strabo, and other classical writers may not be entirely lost. In fact, modern technology has revealed tantalizing clues that suggest much of it may still lie hidden beneath the sands, waiting to be rediscovered. In the 21st century, new technologies have allowed researchers to explore the Hawara site in ways that Petrie could only have dreamed of. Ground-penetrating radar and other advanced tools have given archaeologists the ability to peer beneath the surface without disturbing the ancient ruins. One such expedition in 2008, led by the Mataja project, a team of geophysicists, used radar technology to investigate the area beneath what Petrie had identified as the foundation of the labyrinth. What they discovered was nothing short of remarkable, a vast network of walls and chambers buried deep beneath the surface. Their findings suggested that what Petrie had thought was a foundation might actually have been the roof of the labyrinth, which could still exist underground. The radar scans revealed a grid of rooms and passageways at depths of 8 to 12 meters, confirming the existence of a colossal structure that matched the descriptions given by ancient historians. Despite the significance of these findings, the news was met with unexpected resistance. Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, led by Zahi Hawass, requested that the results be withheld from the public, citing concerns about national security. The Mataja team faced delays and obstacles, but after 2 years, they were finally able to publish their report. Their findings supported the ancient accounts of a labyrinth that was far larger than any temple known in Egypt, a structure that had remained hidden beneath the sands for millennia. The labyrinth's complexity and scale raised even more questions about its purpose. Why would such an enormous structure be built underground, and what was it used for? Some researchers speculated that it could have been a secret repository, a place where valuable artifacts or knowledge were stored. Others suggested that it might have served as a ceremonial or religious center, its labyrinthine corridors and chambers designed to disorient and awe those who entered. One of the most intriguing aspects of the labyrinth is its apparent age. The orientation of the structure, which is tilted by 20 to 25 degrees compared to the nearby Hawara pyramid, suggests that it may be much older than the pyramid itself. If this is true, it raises the possibility that the labyrinth predates the pharaohs and could be a relic of a much earlier civilization. Despite the advances in technology, many mysteries remain unsolved. The subterranean chambers have yet to be fully explored, and no one knows what lies within them. Could the labyrinth still contain treasures or texts from an ancient era? Could it hold clues to the origins of the Egyptians, or even earlier cultures that inhabited the region? For now, these questions remain unanswered, as the labyrinth remains buried beneath layers of earth and time. Hidden deep in the desert sands of Abydos, approximately 350 miles south of the Great Pyramid of Giza, stands the Osirion, a monumental structure shrouded in mystery. Its origins, purpose, and design have baffled archaeologists and researchers for decades. Unlike the well-known temples of ancient Egypt, the Osirion defies traditional pharaonic architectural norms, leading some to believe it could be the product of a much older, technologically advanced civilization. Could this ancient structure hold the key to a forgotten chapter of human history? The first puzzle presented by the Osirion lies in its striking architectural divergence from typical Egyptian temples. While most temples of the pharaonic era adhere to a linear rectangular layout, the Osirion's design breaks the mold with its unique L-shaped configuration. This anomaly alone raises critical questions about the intentions behind its construction. Was it built for a different purpose than Egypt's standard religious edifices? Or does it reflect the architectural style of an unknown, perhaps much older culture? Adding to the mystery is the Osirion's relationship with the nearby temple of Seti Prayus, built during the 19th dynasty. Archaeological evidence suggests that the Osirion predates the temple of Seti Ras by centuries, if not millennia, implying that the site held significant importance long before the reign of Seti. This ancient structure was already in place when Seti chose to build his temple beside it, as though honoring an ancient relic from a bygone era. What made the Osirion so significant, and why did it attract the attention of the Egyptian kings? The sheer scale of the Osirion is awe-inspiring. The core of the structure is composed of massive rose granite blocks, some of which weigh an astonishing 100 tons. These immense stones were quarried from Aswan, located over 200 miles to the south, a logistical challenge that seems insurmountable given the tools and technology traditionally attributed to the Egyptians of the time. Moving these massive blocks across hundreds of miles of desert, and then precisely positioning them in a desert location far from the Nile, is a feat that defies explanation. Without evidence of advanced machinery, how were these massive stones transported and assembled with such precision? The Osirion's architecture, featuring a sophisticated double-layered roofing system and interlocking wedges, suggests a level of engineering knowledge far beyond what ancient Egypt is known to have possessed. The use of granite, a hard and unforgiving material, only adds to the mystery. Working with granite requires advanced tools and knowledge, skills that, according to historical records, the Egyptians had not yet developed during the early dynastic periods. Another striking feature of the Osirion is its complete lack of Egyptian hieroglyphs or artwork. In contrast to nearly every other Egyptian temple or monument, which are richly decorated with carvings, inscriptions, and illustrations, the Osirion is eerily bare. Throughout Egypt's history, temples were frequently renovated, with each generation adding new inscriptions and artwork. Even more unusual is the Osirion's subterranean layout, which is highly uncharacteristic of Egyptian temple architecture. The entire structure lies 15 feet below ground level, leading some researchers to propose that the temple could be far older than its surrounding counterparts. The idea that it predates the buildup of sand and soil that has accumulated over millennia suggests a timeline stretching back to an era before the sands of Egypt's desert even existed in their current form. Water erosion patterns found on the limestone enclosure surrounding the Osirion add yet another layer to the mystery. Some researchers argue that these erosion marks could only have been caused by a much wetter climate, possibly dating the structure back to the end of the last ice age, when the region experienced more rainfall. If true, this would place the Osirion's construction over 10,000 years ago, far earlier than the dynastic Egyptian civilization. Perhaps the most intriguing feature of the Osirion is the presence of water within the structure itself. Modern seismic technology has revealed that the visible portion of the Osirion is only the uppermost part of a much larger complex, which extends at least 50 feet below the current floor level. Beneath the surface, seismic tests have indicated the presence of hollow chambers, which have yet to be explored due to the water that continually fills the site. Despite multiple attempts, archaeologists have been unable to drain the water, which seems to replenish at an alarming rate. The source of this water remains unknown, and its continuous flow presents a baffling enigma. Some researchers suggest that the Osirion's complex hydraulic system, which includes channels, basins, and possibly sluices, was designed to control and manipulate water flow within the structure. The precision of these features points to an advanced understanding of hydraulic engineering, something not typically associated with ancient Egyptian technology. While the Egyptians were known for their use of irrigation canals and basins for agriculture, the Osirion's water management techniques are far more sophisticated. The mysteries of the Osirion continue to deepen as researchers attempt to unlock its secrets. The constant replenishment of water within the structure defies explanation. James Westerman, a renowned archaeologist and historian, has spent decades studying the Osirion. His efforts to pump out the water from the structure have been met with frustration. Even with a pump capable of removing 500 gallons of water per minute, the water level continues to rise, seemingly replenishing itself faster than it can be removed. Westerman's words capture the perplexity of the situation. Water is emerging from inside the structure. This shouldn't be happening, especially in the desert. Something strange is going on here. In 2023, Westerman's team employed advanced technology to analyze the water within the Osirion, measuring its pressure, temperature, conductivity, and chemical composition. The results were astounding. The water in the Osirion was found to have a unique chemical profile, different from the surrounding wells and aquifers in the area. Westerman's research suggested that the water was being forced up through the structure, almost as though it were being propelled by some unknown force. The water's chemical composition and isotopic profile indicated that it did not originate from the nearby Nile River or local aquifers. Where, then, is this water coming from? The Osirion's water behaves more like that of a geyser, but without the typical signs of volcanic activity. Is there an underground spring or reservoir beneath the structure, or could the water be flowing from a deeper, as yet undiscovered source? One of the most intriguing aspects of the water is its unique properties. Westerman conducted hydrologic studies and found that the water within the Osirion was drinkable after filtration. Over time, Westerman began drinking the water regularly, and he noticed something extraordinary. His eyesight began to improve. A lifelong sufferer of nearsightedness, Westerman eventually no longer needed glasses, a fact that was confirmed by an eye test. Could the water from the Osirion possess healing properties? Westerman believes so and continues to drink the water, attributing his improved vision to its mysterious qualities. Yet another anomaly is the temperature of the water. The water outside the Osirion measures a consistent 16.9 degrees Celsius, but the water inside the structure is significantly warmer, measuring 23.8 degrees Celsius. This temperature difference defies the second law of thermodynamics, which states that heat cannot spontaneously transfer from a cooler to a warmer body. Something within the Osirion is heating the water, but no one knows what it is or how it is happening. As researchers continue to study the Osirion, its true scale and purpose remain elusive. What is visible today may only be the tip of the iceberg. The structure extends far beneath the surface, with hidden chambers still unexplored due to the constant flow of water. Could these underground chambers hold more secrets about the origins of the Osirion and its builders? As we probe deeper into the Osirion's mysteries, we are left with more questions than answers. One thing is certain: this ancient structure is far older and more complex than we ever imagined, and it may hold the key to understanding a lost chapter of human history. If you were captivated by today's video, then you're absolutely going to love our next adventure. We're diving even deeper into the mysteries of ancient Egypt, with Egyptologists discovered an ancient tunnel revealing tombs and something you'd never expect. Beneath Giza's sands, a groundbreaking discovery rewrites ancient Egyptian history. Egyptologists unearthed a water-filled tunnel, the Osiris shaft, predating the pyramids. What secrets does this ancient passage hold? What unexpected wonders lie within?
There's something called the Osiris shaft, which is located directly under the causeway between the Sphinx and the second pyramid. It goes about 100 feet underground. It's carved out of the limestone bedrock. It's the creepiest place I've ever been in my life. It's disturbing. So it's 3 different shafts, and you go down, and here's where it gets, this is the crazy part. When you get to the 3rd level, which is completely dark and freaky, there was a side tunnel. Zahi Hawass himself, there was a documentary, went down there, and he's standing in front of this tunnel that went sideways, and he says, it's yet to be explored, and I don't know what's down there, but Joe, they've since sealed it up. It's like cinder blocks, they sealed it up.
What?
Yes! There are things that have gone underground in Egypt that, for whatever reason, Joe, is just off limits to the public.
During their meticulous excavations, they unearthed an extensive tunnel, plunging 13 meters underground, expertly carved through 1,305 meters of sandstone. This architectural feat, standing 2 meters tall, has been hailed as a geometric miracle by the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities for its engineering precision and scale.
It's interesting that the patterns are geometrical. Someone made it, and it involved a very large amount of organized labor in order to make it. There had to be the will and the intent in order to do that.
The Eupalinos Tunnel, extending over 10 to 36 meters, was an unparalleled achievement in ancient engineering, mirroring the complexity and ambition of the Osiris Magna Tunnel, though the latter's function remains a mystery. Despite being partially submerged in water, the tunnel's purpose, beyond its architectural resemblance to historical works, is still under investigation. The driving force behind Martinez's dedication to Osiris Magna since 2004 has been the quest to locate the final resting place of Cleopatra VII, the last queen of the Ptolemaic dynasty.
Are we looking at the traces of a forgotten episode in human history? I think so. I think that's what's going on here.
The excavations at Osiris Magna have not been in vain, revealing artifacts and signs hinting at the presence of Cleopatra and her ancestors. Founded around 280 BCE by Ptolemy II, a direct descendant of one of Alexander the Great's generals, Osiris Magna is steeped in the legacy of its founders. The temple, believed to be dedicated to Osiris and his consort Isis, also aligns with Cleopatra's efforts to embody Isis, strengthening her divine legitimacy.
This is a very neglected area of the world as far as deep and ancient archaeology goes.
Discoveries within the temple complex have included coins adorned with the likenesses of Cleopatra and Alexander the Great, alongside figurines of Isis, suggesting a vibrant cultic activity centered around these figures. Additionally, Greco-Roman burial shafts unearthed within the site hint at the potential for finding tombs similar to those Cleopatra and her consort Mark Antony might be interred in, raising the possibility of uncovering their final resting places. Looking forward, the exploration is set to extend into the Mediterranean Sea, following the trail of a series of devastating earthquakes between 320 and 1303 CE that led to the partial submersion of the temple complex. Prior excavations have also indicated a network of tunnels connecting Lake Mariotte to the Mediterranean, suggesting a broader scope of investigation in the quest to unravel the mysteries of Taposiris Magna. The tunnel discovery, yielding artifacts such as pottery and a limestone block, adds to the anticipation of what lies ahead. As articulated by Zahi Hawass, the former Minister for Antiquities, the discovery of Cleopatra and Mark Antony's tomb would be a landmark event of the 21st century. Nonetheless, the significance of the findings at Taposiris Magna transcends the search for royal tombs, shedding light on the rich and complex history of this ancient city. The ongoing excavations promise not only the potential revelation of royal tombs, but also a deeper understanding of the cultural and historical landscape of ancient Egypt. Moving on, the mystery of the Osiris shaft, a hidden gem beneath the sands of the Giza plateau.
But he found evidence of deliberate burial in a very complicated, difficult cave system, which you can hardly access.
Is this shaft connected with ancient Queen Cleopatra? This ancient marvel is a deep dive into Egyptian engineering brilliance and a profound testament to their religious beliefs. Carved straight into the bedrock and plunging about 30 meters, which is nearly 100 feet underground. It's a 3-level journey into the past, where architecture meets the afterlife. Right at the doorstep of the Pyramid of Khafre, the entrance to this subterranean complex is anything but ordinary. It's like stepping into a different realm, starting with a modest antechamber that serves as your welcome or warning of the mysteries that lie ahead. This first stop is simple yet precise, a showcase of the ancient Egyptians' mastery over stone, but the adventure only deepens from there. A narrow passage takes you to the second level, a larger space carved with burial niches. Imagine this as a VIP section for the afterlife, likely reserved for those with a direct line to the gods or high standing in society. It's a clear sign that you're moving closer to something sacred. Then comes the final plunge to the heart of the Osiris shaft. Here, in the deepest chamber, you're greeted by a scene straight out of mythology. At the center, a massive granite sarcophagus sits partially submerged in water, which seeps in naturally from the limestone. This isn't just an engineering feat, it's a direct nod to Osiris, the god of the afterlife, whose story is intertwined with the Nile itself. The water here isn't just a natural occurrence, it's a symbol of life, death, and rebirth, mirroring the Nile's life-giving floods and Osiris's own resurrection story. The genius of the Osiris shaft isn't just in its construction, though carving such a complex directly into the bedrock, managing groundwater, and ensuring stability is nothing short of astounding. It's also in how it weaves together functionality and deep religious symbolism. This place wasn't just meant for burying the dead, it was a canvas on which the ancient Egyptians painted their beliefs in the afterlife, a physical journey through the underworld that mirrored the soul's passage to eternity. In the end, the Osiris shaft stands as a profound expression of ancient Egyptian architectural and religious thought, a place where the physical and the spiritual meet, carved deep into the earth. The Osiris shaft presents a fascinating narrative of ancient Egyptian beliefs, ingeniously encapsulated in a subterranean complex. This enigmatic site, stretching deep beneath the sands, offers a rare window into the Egyptians' sophisticated burial practices and their reverence for Osiris, the deity of the afterlife and rebirth. The discovery of varied sarcophagi within its depths speaks volumes about the social tapestry and the evolving customs over millennia from the Old Kingdom through to the Ptolemaic period. It's intriguing to see how granite and basalt sarcophagi, earmarked for the elite, coexist with simpler wooden ones, suggesting a resting place for a wide spectrum of society. The assortment of burial goods unearthed here, from pottery intended for afterlife sustenance to ushabti figures meant to serve the deceased beyond death, underscores a firm belief in an existence after life. These artifacts weren't just symbolic, they were envisioned to spring to life in the afterlife, attending to the deceased. The presence of jewelry, amulets, and various ritual objects further accentuates the shaft's spiritual significance, painting a vivid picture of the personal beliefs and the societal stature of those entombed within its chambers. Less common than in grandiose tombs but equally telling are the inscriptions found within the Osiris shaft. These hieroglyphic texts, drawn from the Book of the Dead, offer prayers and spells to aid the deceased's passage through the underworld, revealing the religious literature that permeated burial rites at the time. The shaft's design and function serve as a profound testament to the myth of Osiris, creating a physical manifestation of the underworld and mirroring the god's mythical entombment in the Nile's waters. This architectural homage to Osiris not only marked the site as a burial ground, but also as a sacred space for pilgrimage and worship, drawing followers to engage in rituals and offerings. The use of water in the deepest chamber, symbolizing purification and rebirth, reflects the Nile's life-giving floods controlled by Osiris, reinforcing the deity's association with agriculture and resurrection. Some theories even suggest that the Osiris shaft's alignment might connect the deceased with celestial bodies, embedding them within the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth, a concept that highlights the Egyptians' advanced understanding of cosmology. Exploring the Osiris shaft thus unfolds a rich tapestry of ancient Egyptian life, belief, and architectural prowess. It's a narrative that transcends the mere act of burial, revealing a culture deeply immersed in the mysteries of the afterlife, the divine, and the cosmos. The Osiris shaft stands not just as a monument, but as a bridge between the earthly and the divine, offering invaluable insights into the spiritual and everyday lives of the ancient Egyptians. Robert M. Schoch, a geologist with a PhD from Yale University, came up with a fascinating idea in the 1990s about the age of the Great Sphinx of Giza. He noticed something interesting about the erosion patterns on the Sphinx and the surrounding area. Unlike the typical wind and sand erosion you'd expect in Egypt's deserts, these patterns looked more like they were caused by water. This was a big deal because it suggested that the Sphinx might be much older than we thought. Now, Graham Hancock, a well-known British author who loves digging into ancient mysteries, found Schoch's theory really interesting and started supporting it.
Since the early 1990s, question marks have been raised over the age of the Great Sphinx of Giza in Egypt. Egyptologists think it's about 4,500 years old, although there's not a shred of inscription evidence to support this date. Independent researcher John Anthony West and Robert Schoch, professor of geology at Boston University, have made a case that the Sphinx must be much older than that.
Hancock is known for questioning the usual stories we hear about historical and archaeological sites. Schoch's theory caught his eye because it suggested that the Sphinx was around during a time when Egypt had a lot of rain, which was way back around 8,000 to 10,000 BCE. This idea of heavy rainfall leading to the erosion we see on the Sphinx today is really cool, but also quite controversial. You see, traditionally, archaeologists have dated the Sphinx to around 2500 BCE, during Pharaoh Khafre's time. They base this on where the Sphinx is located in the Giza pyramid complex and how it looks compared to other stuff from that period. But if Schoch is right and the Sphinx was actually built when it was much wetter in Egypt, then it could be thousands of years older than we thought, maybe even dating back to the Neolithic era. That's a pretty big shake-up in how we think about ancient Egyptian history.
To put it bluntly, the Sphinx did not originate with Khafre in the 4th dynasty, and really the beginning of my serious work and career looking at ancient civilizations.
Instead of the typical wear and tear you'd expect from wind and sand in a desert, the Sphinx had features like deep cracks, wavy lines on its limestone walls, and smooth, rounded edges. These are the kinds of things you usually see with water erosion, not wind or sand. Now, the Sphinx is made out of limestone, which is pretty easy for water to wear down. And what's interesting is that this limestone is made up of different layers, some harder than others. Schoch saw that the water erosion affected these layers in a way that you wouldn't really see if it was just wind and sand doing the damage. But here's where it gets even more intriguing. Schoch looked at the climate history of the Sahara Desert and the Giza area and found out that way back between 10,000 and 5,000 BCE, this place wasn't the dry desert we know today. It was actually pretty wet, thanks to something called the Neolithic subpluvial phase.
We know there were ultra hyper-arid Sahara conditions on the Giza Plateau for the last 5,000 or so years. And this ties in with the origins of civilization, according to the standard story, which is that civilization began between 4,000 and 3,000 BCE.
This was a time when there was a lot more rain. So Schock thinks that this rainy period might have caused the kind of water erosion we see on the Sphinx, suggesting it's much older than we thought, maybe even dating back to these wetter times. This goes against the usual dating of the Sphinx to around 2500 BCE during Pharaoh Khafre's reign, based on its style and where it's located in the Giza pyramid complex. Schock's idea definitely shakes things up in terms of how we think about the Sphinx's age. So Robert Schock didn't just look at the Sphinx in isolation when he was thinking about this whole water erosion idea. He actually compared the wear and tear on the Sphinx with other ancient limestone sites that had been exposed to a lot of rain. This was his way of checking if what he saw on the Sphinx matched up with known patterns of water erosion elsewhere. It's like looking at different worn-out jeans to figure out if they got ripped from climbing trees or just from washing them a lot. He found sites with a clear historical background where they knew for sure that rain had done its thing over the years. When he looked at these places, he noticed that the erosion patterns were quite similar to what he was seeing on the Sphinx. This kind of bolstered his argument that the erosion on the Sphinx could really be from water, not just wind or sand.
You look at the evidence, and that's really where I was coming from. But my point is that even in the late 1980s, early 1990s, when I first got involved with this, if I looked at it critically, the evidence was not that definitive for the age of the Sphinx.
Schock's approach was pretty comprehensive. He wasn't just a geologist looking at rocks. He was also considering the weather patterns from thousands of years ago and what archaeologists were saying about these ancient sites. It's like he was piecing together a big jigsaw puzzle from different fields of study. But of course, there are always different sides to a story. Some critics pointed out that the erosion could be due to other natural processes unique to the Giza area, like fluctuations in groundwater, or the way certain chemicals in the air might wear down the rock. And then there's the whole thing about what archaeologists have found around the Sphinx, like artifacts and writings that suggest it was built around 2500 BCE, during Pharaoh Khafre's time. This kind of goes against Schock's idea that the Sphinx is way older because of the water erosion. So it's a bit of a puzzle with some pieces still missing. Graham Hancock has this really intriguing idea about an ancient civilization that he thinks existed way before the ones we usually learn about in history books, like the Egyptians, Sumerians, and the Indus Valley folks. He reckons this civilization was around many millennia earlier, and that it might have been wiped out by a huge comet impact around 10,000 BCE. Imagine that a whole advanced society just gone in the blink of an eye, leaving only bits and pieces behind. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Hancock thinks this civilization wasn't just hanging out in one spot, it was all over the place, having a global influence. He suggests that after whatever disaster hit them, the survivors might have traveled far and wide, sharing their knowledge and helping kickstart other ancient cultures. Hancock dives into myths and oral traditions from all over the world too. He's not just dismissing these stories as old wives' tales, but considering them as potential historical records. For example, he's really interested in the flood myths that pop up in different cultures. He thinks these might be a collective memory of a real event that had a huge impact on this lost civilization.
The best explanation is that floods of icy meltwater released by the heat and kinetic energy of the impacts flowed off the North American ice cap and into the Atlantic Ocean, where they interrupted the Gulf Stream, a key element of the central heating system of our planet, hence the sudden and dramatic cooling.
Now, Hancock is big on astronomy. He points to how some ancient structures, like the Giza pyramids and the Sphinx, line up with certain stars and constellations. He thinks this isn't just a coincidence, but a sign of advanced astronomical knowledge. He's also into the idea that these ancient folks understood the precession of the equinoxes. That's a fancy term for a slow shift in Earth's rotation over a 26,000-year cycle. If he's right, it means they were way ahead of their time in understanding the cosmos. Graham Hancock has this captivating theory about ancient civilizations and their architectural wonders. He's really into how these old structures, like the pyramids in Egypt, Stonehenge, and those incredible megalithic sites in South America, show off some serious engineering and architectural skills. Hancock reckons that to build these things with such precision and detail, those ancient folks must have had some advanced knowledge and technology that we don't usually give them credit for. Take, for instance, the way the stones are cut at Pumapunku in Bolivia. Hancock points out that the cuts are so precise, it's as if they had access to some really advanced tools. And when it comes to building massive structures, he's all about the techniques they must have used. He's amazed at how accurately these huge stones were fitted together, often without any mortar, and wonders how on earth they moved and positioned stones that weigh several tons. This isn't just your everyday heavy lifting. We're talking about some serious know-how in engineering and possibly some clever uses of leverage and pulley systems. Now he doesn't stop there. He's also fascinated by the mathematical and geometrical knowledge that these structures reveal. He talks about the use of the golden ratio, pi, and precise angular measurements, which shows a sophisticated understanding of math and geometry. Like, take the Great Pyramid of Khufu. Its alignment, the way its base is perfectly level, and the precise angles of its sides. Hancock sees this as evidence of a much more advanced understanding of geometry and engineering than we might think. Then there are the monumental buildings in Mesoamerica, such as the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan and the Mayan pyramids. Hancock highlights their architectural sophistication, urban planning, and the use of large stone blocks. All of this, to him, points to a level of technological proficiency and knowledge that goes way beyond what we've traditionally thought was possible for these ancient cultures. In a nutshell, Hancock is looking at these ancient structures and saying, hey, there's more to the story here. He's suggesting that these civilizations had a depth of knowledge and skill in construction, engineering, and mathematics that challenges our conventional understanding of ancient history.
It wasn't something the Maya made up. The Olmecs used that same symbolism. So the Mayan calendar is actually an Olmec calendar. And if we then consider the possibility that the Olmecs may just be the latest, the earliest surviving manifestation of that calendar, it could go back.
Then there's Teotihuacan in Mexico. Hancock looks at the layout of this ancient city and sees a kind of mirror image of our solar system's planetary orbits. To him, this suggests that the people who built Teotihuacan had a pretty detailed knowledge of astronomy and space. Stonehenge in England is another example. Hancock thinks it was used as an astronomical observatory because of how it aligns with the solstices. He sees this as further evidence that ancient people understood celestial movements really well. And let's not forget about the Pyramid of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza. During the equinoxes, this pyramid casts a shadow that looks like a serpent. Hancock sees this as a sophisticated way of tracking the sun's path, again showing an advanced understanding of astronomy. Hancock also dives into the idea of precession, which is this slow wobble in Earth's rotation that takes about 26,000 years to go full circle. He looks at how the Giza pyramids align with Orion's belt, and how the Sphinx lines up with the Leo constellation during what's known as the Age of Leo, around 10,500 BCE. He thinks these alignments aren't random but deliberate, showing that the people back then understood this complex astronomical phenomenon. So, in a nutshell, Hancock is really into the idea that ancient structures around the world weren't just built for the heck of it. He believes they were deliberately aligned with stars, constellations, and celestial events, showing that ancient civilizations had a much deeper understanding of astronomy than we usually give them credit for.